5 years ago, he threw me away like trash when I was just his maid. Now he's worth $50 billion. And guess who just showed up at my door with tears in his eyes, begging me to take him back? You won't believe how I handled this. Before I tell you this crazy story, hit that like button if you've ever had your heart broken by someone who thought they were too good for you. And make sure to subscribe, because I've got more stories like this that'll blow your mind. Let me take you back to 5 years ago, when I was Maya Johnson, 28 years old, and completely naive about love. I was working as a live-in maid for the Richardson family in their massive estate in Beverly Hills. You know, one of those houses with too many rooms to count and chandeliers that cost more than most people's cars. I'd been there for almost a year, keeping their perfect life perfectly clean. The Richardsons treated me well enough. I mean, they paid me fairly and gave me a small but comfortable room in the staff quarters. But I was invisible to them, just another piece of furniture that happened to dust their actual furniture. That was fine by me. I needed the job, and being invisible meant staying out of drama. Then their son Richard came home from his latest business trip to Europe. 30 years old, tall, dark hair, and those green eyes that seemed to see right through you. He was supposed to be this tech genius, heir to the family's billion-dollar empire. But when I first met him in the kitchen that Tuesday morning, he didn't act like the spoiled rich boy I expected. He actually said, please, when asking for coffee, and thank you when I brought it. Small things, but when you're used to being treated like you don't exist, small things become everything. What started as polite nods in hallways turned into something else. I'd catch him watching me while I worked, not in a creepy way, but like he was genuinely curious about me as a person. Late at night, when his parents were asleep and the house were quiet, he'd find me in the kitchen finishing my duties. We'd talk about everything: books, dreams, his travels, my goals of maybe starting my own business someday. Those conversations stretched from minutes to hours. He had this way of listening that made me feel like what I said actually mattered. Then came that stormy Thursday night in June. I was bringing in the laundry from the line when the rain started pouring. He found me in the garden, both of us soaked, laughing about how crazy the weather was. And then, under that old oak tree with rain falling all around us, he kissed me. It felt like magic, like something out of a movie I never thought I'd be the star of. After that kiss in the rain, everything changed between us, but we had to keep it secret. For 3 whole months, we lived this double life. During the day, I was just Maya the maid, and he was Mr. Richardson's son. But at night, we were something else entirely. We'd meet in the library after midnight, whispering about our dreams while curled up on that old leather couch. He'd bring me books he thought I'd love, and I'd make him tea the way my grandmother taught me. Sometimes we'd sneak out to the pool house, talking until sunrise about everything and nothing. He told me about the pressure he felt to live up to his father's expectations, how he felt trapped in a life that wasn't really his. I fell hard. I mean, completely, stupidly in love. This man who could have anyone chose to spend his nights with me, telling me I was brilliant, that I had this light inside me that he'd never seen in anyone else. He'd trace patterns on my skin and promise that once his father closed this major business deal, we'd go public. I want the whole world to know you're mine, he'd whisper. But looking back now, I see the red flags I ignored. We never went anywhere together. I never met his friends. When his college buddies visited, I'd serve them drinks and he'd barely acknowledge me existed. I told myself it was temporary, that he was just protecting us until the right moment. God, I was so naive. Love makes you blind to the obvious truth staring you right in the face. Then came that Saturday in September that destroyed everything. Mrs. Richardson called all staff for an emergency meeting early morning. She was practically glowing, saying they were throwing a surprise engagement party that evening. Our Richard is finally ready to settle down with the perfect woman, she announced. My stomach dropped, but I convinced myself maybe this was it. Maybe he was going to propose to me. I spent the day helping set up, my hands shaking as I arranged flowers, telling myself to stay calm. The guests started arriving around 7. Important people, society types, everyone dressed in designer clothes worth more than my yearly salary. I was serving champagne when Richard walked in with her, Victoria Sterling. Blonde, beautiful, everything I wasn't. From old money, the kind of family that appeared in society magazines. I watched him kiss her cheek, watched his parents beam with pride, watched them announce their engagement to thunderous applause. My whole world crumbled in that moment, but I had to keep serving drinks, keep smiling, keep pretending my heart wasn't bleeding all over the marble floor. I cornered him later in his father's study. He had the nerve to act surprised, like he'd forgotten I existed. When I asked him what we were, what those 3 months meant, he looked at me like I was crazy. "Maya, come on, it was just fun. You're a sweet girl, but you must have known this wasn't real. People like you and me, we're from different worlds." The words hit me like physical blows. Then came the final insult. "I think you got confused about what this was." That's when I knew I'd been living in a fantasy while he was just having fun with the help. The next morning, Mrs. Richardson called me into her office. I thought maybe there was a chance to explain, but she cut me off before I could speak. "We know about your inappropriate behavior with our son," she said coldly. "Pack your things. You're fired." Just like that, 5 years of loyal service meant nothing. They gave me 2 hours to pack and get out. I moved into this tiny studio apartment in the worst part of town. Roaches in the kitchen, paper-thin walls, and rent that ate up most of my savings. I worked 3 jobs just to survive, cleaning offices at night, babysitting during the day, and washing dishes at a diner on weekends. I was exhausted, broken, and honestly, there were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if Richard was right about me being nothing. But somewhere around month 6, something changed. I was cleaning an office building downtown when I overheard 2 executives talking about supply chain management. It hit me. Every business needs cleaning services, but most companies charge too much and deliver too little. I started researching, learning everything I could about running a business. I used every penny of my savings to enroll in community college. Business classes at night, working during the day. My professors thought I was crazy when I told them I wanted to start a cleaning company, but I had a plan. I knew the industry from the ground up, literally. I understood what clients really wanted and what workers needed to succeed. It wasn't easy. There were nights I lived on ramen noodles for weeks, days when I wanted to quit. But every time I remembered Richard's words, "People like you," it fueled my fire. I wasn't going to let some privileged boy define what I could or couldn't accomplish. I was Maya Johnson, and I was going to build something that proved I was worth more than he ever imagined. That pain became my power, and let me tell you, it was the best decision I ever made. Fast forward 5 years, and I'm sitting in my corner office in downtown LA, looking out at the skyline. Johnson Premier Services had grown from me and a bucket to a company with over 200 employees and contracts with major corporations across 3 states. We were pulling in $15 million annually, and I was being featured in business magazines as one of the top young entrepreneurs in America. But success wasn't the only good thing in my life. I'd met Michael Turner 2 years ago at a charity gala I was sponsoring. He's a pediatric surgeon, brilliant, kind, and the complete opposite of Richard in every way. Michael saw me for who I truly was from day one. He proposed 6 months ago with a ring he designed himself, and our wedding was planned for the fall. Then, on a Tuesday that started like any other, my assistant buzzed my intercom. "Ms. Johnson, there's a Mr. Richardson here to see you. He says it's personal." My blood ran cold. I hadn't heard that name in 5 years, hadn't thought about him in... Well, that's a lie. Sometimes I wondered what happened to him, but I never expected him to show up at my company. I told my assistant to send him in, curiosity winning over everything else. The door opened, and in walked Richard Richardson, but he was nothing like the man I remembered. His expensive suits were replaced with jeans and a wrinkled shirt. His confident posture was gone, replaced by slumped shoulders and tired eyes. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. "Hello, Maya," he said quietly, and I could hear the desperation in his voice even though he was trying to hide it. I gestured to the chair across from my desk, staying professional, staying calm. "Richard, what brings you here?" But I already knew. I'd heard whispers in business circles about Richardson Tech's spectacular collapse, about bad investments and a messy divorce. Seeing him now, broken and desperate in my office, I realized karma had finally caught up with him. And honestly, I felt absolutely nothing for the man who once broke my heart into a million pieces. The silence stretched between us for what felt like forever. Richard kept staring at my office, at the awards on my walls, at the engagement ring on my finger. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maya, I made the biggest mistake of my life 5 years ago. I need you to know that." I leaned back in my chair, completely composed. "Really? What mistake was that, Richard? When you told me I was confused about what we were? Or when you said people like you and me are from different worlds?" The words came out calm, cold. He flinched like I'd slapped him. I was an idiot, young, scared, trying to please my parents. Victoria and I, that marriage was arranged for business. I never loved her. It was you, Maya. It was always you. He reached forward like he wanted to touch my hand, but I moved it away. "She divorced me last year. Took half of everything. The company collapsed because of my father's bad investments. I lost it all." I watched him pour his heart out, this broken man who once treated me like I was nothing. He told me how he tried to find me years ago, how he realized what he'd lost, about the drinking, the depression, how he thought about that kiss in the garden every single day. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you, Maya. Give me another chance. I'll do anything, become anyone you need me to be." When he finished, I stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city. My city. The one I'd conquered after he threw me away. "You want to know what's interesting, Richard? 5 years ago, you were right. We were from different worlds. You were the billionaire's son, and I was just the maid. But you know what you didn't understand? Worlds can change." I turned back to face him, and for the first time, he really saw me. Not the broken girl begging for scraps of love, but the woman who'd built an empire from nothing. "You see, Richard, you taught me something valuable that night. You taught me that I was worth more than settling for someone who was ashamed of me. So thank you. Your cruelty was the best gift you ever gave me, because it forced me to become who I was meant to be." His face crumbled as the reality hit him. The woman he'd thrown away was now everything he could never be again. So there you have it. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well and becoming everything they said you couldn't be. If this story motivated you, smash that like button and let me know in the comments if you think I made the right choice. Subscribe for more real-life stories about love, heartbreak, and coming back stronger. Trust me, you don't want to miss what I'm sharing next week.